Hey there, welcome to this Equinox special. So we had the equinox yesterday on the 22nd of September 2024, and in this video I'm going to be detailing through the patterns over the next 3 months. Now, they're not exactly months because, you know, it starts on the 22nd of September, you know, and normally months we talk about like going from the 1st to the 30th or 31st. So what I'm going to be talking about is the zodiac months, the zodiacal months, like the Libra month, the Scorpio month, and the Sagittarius month, over the next 3 month period as we go through this particular season. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, I almost said normal then, if you're in the northern hemisphere, forgive me if you're in the south, this is the start of autumn. If you're in the southern hemisphere, this is the official start of spring. This is quite a big one. Now, I need to confess, earlier, I think last week, I began saying that I was going to be doing this, and I would be doing an all 12 signs zodiac forecast, you know, where I break it down on a sign by sign basis. I was a little over optimistic, I have to say. And as I've been reviewing all the patterns, there's just so many of them. I don't logically and intuitively know how I can break like the immensity of the stuff that's going on in the next 3 months down into an individual forecast of, say, about 20 minutes. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm detailing the planetary patterns in the first part, which is of interest if you're a fan of astrology. But in the second part, I'm doing one big forecast for everyone. Okay, and I'm not including the house system, so I'm literally looking at the astrology and giving an energy update. So, you know, whether you're an Aries, a Taurus, a Scorpio, whatever, there is one big forecast for the next 3 months, like a 3 month blueprint for, you know, this season ahead in part 2. So if that's all you're here for, I suggest you just click on that chapter and go straight there. And if you're still here, then I'm guessing you're really interested in knowing more about the details of this particular 3 month period, like what is going on, because, you know, you probably know how to interpret this into your own chart. And so I'm just picking up on the patterns, saying a few words about them and bringing them to your attention so that you can apply this back to your own astrology and notice where it's falling in your chart. So what I'm going to do then is bring up the slides and take it from here. Right, so this season's biggest trends then, like the headlines, I guess, you know, within a week of this starting, or, you know, just over a week, we've got the annular solar eclipse, and this is the last eclipse of 2024. I've already mentioned it in some of my other forecasts, but I just want to reiterate what it stands for, because, you know, every one of these things going on in this season ahead, I think, is creating the energy of it. You know, I see all of these things as being part of the cumulative energy influencing this season ahead. And for most of my listeners, not that I'm pandering to just Americans, by the way, but, you know, a lot of my listeners, over 50% of my listeners, are usually, you know, are from the States. So, you know, this is a very big season for people from the US. We've also got Mars opposition Pluto coming in. Now, this is much more hard-hitting than a usual Mars opposition to Pluto. Because it's happening 3 times. It's happening at the time of Mars in its opposition, and yeah, and because of this, like Mars, when he's in his opposition, is really quite surly, you know, and not very good at expressing himself. And so this is particularly fiery. It's a 3-parter. I think the first one is on the 3rd of November. The second one is in the new year on the 3rd of January. And the other one, I think, is in April. Is it 27th? Off the top of my head, I might be wrong. But the first one is on the 3rd of November, so just 2 days before the US election. This particular aspect is noticeably fiery and warlike. So I will be talking about that. We've then, on the 19th of November, got the final ingress of Pluto into Aquarius. That means Pluto is finally giving up his dominion over Capricorn and moving finally into the sign of Aquarius, where he's going to be, it was 20 years, but now it's probably 19 years. He's going to be there for a really long time. So we're really going to get a very sort of deep transformation with all of the themes of Aquarius. Now, I've recorded a few videos about Pluto into Aquarius. I might even revisit my old one and add in new notes, because obviously, as things change, you know, I'm already seeing, you know, like Pluto has already come into the sign of Aquarius twice since March of 2023. And so we've already had a little spike of this Aquarian energy, and I've noticed lots of big changes. So I think, you know, my video might need updating, but there is a forecast in there for you according to your star sign as well. So it's worth having a, you know, check that out if you're interested. Because after this, you know, he's not going back to Capricorn. And if you have got some Pluto and Capricorn themes going on in your chart, this is the time to finish it, to really wrap it up. Whatever Pluto was bringing you in the sign of Capricorn, which if you are a Capricorn, or if you've got an angle in Capricorn, a moon in Capricorn, or if you've got things right at the end of the cardinal signs, most likely you've been really feeling the pinch of this very, very recently. And, you know, I've already mentioned that Mars is going into retrograde, but also Mercury is going into retrograde during this time. So very, very intense. So like I say, I'm going to bring this down, or separate this down into the sort of zodiacal months. So the Libra month will go from the 2nd of September to the 21st of October. Part 2, the Scorpio season bit, will be from the 22nd of October to the 21st of November, and Saggy from the 22nd of November until the next season starts, which is the winter or summer season, according to where you are. Before I go any further, I just want to say thank you to everybody that supports this channel. This is growing really nicely, and it brings me a lot of joy to be able to you know, share messages with you, and also hear about what's going on in different countries from everyone's different perspectives. You know, I love the fact that, you know, so many people are supporting me, and thank you so much. Really, truly, thank you. You mean it means the world to me. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the actual equinox chart itself, which is for the 22nd of September, like I've already shared with you, because I always think that the chart that starts a new season, or that starts you know, an eclipse, is particularly substantial, and it sets the scene or the tone for the whole season ahead. You know, the sun is literally going over one of these quarter points, you know, a 0 point energy. You know, earlier this year, I recorded at the time of the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, the autumn equinox for the southern hemisphere. And I went to quite, you know, great lengths actually to sort of describe why the 0 point energies are so important. You know, they are, you know, 0 degrees in sign of Aries, 0 degrees in sign of Cancer, 0 degrees in sign of Libra, and 0 degrees in the sign of Capricorn. You know, these are the degrees that represent like our turning points of the year. You know, the 0 Aries is all about the birthing of a new year, and you could read it as the birthing of your personality. I very much see 0 Cancer as being about our home and the birthing of our stability and our security at home and our family. I really see the 0 degree of Libra as representing the birthing of partnerships, and sharing, you know, a lot more sharing, and intimacy and the enrichment that we get when we're working with other people. And then I really do see that the 0 degrees of Capricorn is absolutely about the birthing of success and recognition and getting to the top of your game, very much like the wheel, you know, the birth chart wheel, where we have our ascendant, we have the IC, which is representing the home and family. We have the descendant, which is representing our relationship, and the top of our chart, the midheaven, representing our you know, culmination and getting to the top. So it is like a wheel, and you could look at it as being born, being young, getting a bit older, and coming, you know, getting much older, you know, getting to you know, the top of your game, and then coming back to die, to be reborn. You know, so there is this element of growth and change. And so it just so happens that 0 Libra is absolutely also related to the energy of partnership and the descendant. You know, the idea that actually, you know, we can go so far on our own, and yet sometimes it's a lot more fun to go with somebody else, and to collaborate and to love and to share. And of course, you know, when 2 people come together, there's the potential for a baby. You know, like we, you know, 1 + 1 can, you know, we can bring about so much more. So yeah, there is a completely different energy to this particular quarter point of the year ahead with this particular equinox. Now, something else to observe at the time of the equinoxes, you know, so the start of spring and autumn, wherever you are in the world, in fact, you know, it goes for when it's 0 degrees Aries or 0 degrees Libra, is the night and day is equal length, you know, so we're not, you know, really pandering to the light or pandering to the dark. It's a point of balance. You know, there's an equanimity, which I think is great. You know, we've either just had more night or more day, but we are coming to a balance point, a neutrality. And I really like the idea of neutrality with the 0 point of Libra, because Libra is all about weighing the scales. And I think justice comes into that as well. The overall patterns, I think, are really quite nice. You know, we literally go just before the equinox started, the moon came in, like literally got into the sign of Gemini, so literally just moved into Gemini, and then soon after the sun moved into the sign of Libra. So they're two air signs right at the beginning of their journey, and they are also both in a trine, making a grand trine with Pluto. This is really lovely. You know, I do have a book that I've had for over 25 years, I think, called Triastral Astrology and the Games That People Play, or something like that. And I've spoken about it in loads of different videos before, because it made such an impact, talking about, you know, Saturn, the sun and the moon, you know, like Saturn as an authority figure, the sun as our own authority, us as an adult, and that, you know, the moon as being the child. So it could be old crone, us and as an adult, and then the child. You know, Saturn is a sort of power, like an image of power. But I also think that Pluto is an even more powerful force than Saturn. You know, like Pluto is in many respects, you know, working in secrecy. It's a planet that is it seems a bit of a mystery to a lot of people until you start to pick up on the themes. It's like the hand behind the scenes that is actually pulling all the strings, you know. And Pluto has a reputation of being the god of the underworld, which, if you've watched any sort of videos about Pluto, you'll know a lot about his themes. You know, ultimately everything comes back to the underworld, you know, so he is very, very powerful. You know, we live, we die, you know, our bodies decompose, go into the earth. That's where all the gold, the minerals, the oil, everything is. So Pluto is like massively influential, and yet we go about our lives and we don't realize, you know, we're putting our feet on the ground every day, moving about, doing our thing. We don't realize that it could all be taken away. Like Pluto could just open up the earth and swallow us whole, and hopefully that doesn't happen to any of us. But Pluto does also represent the powers that be, and also the powers that you maybe think shouldn't be, you know, the powers that be, the powers that shouldn't be. But Pluto seems to represent, even though he's the furthest away from us out of all these planets here, and in fact, many people don't even consider Pluto to be a planet. You know, he's a dwarf planet. You know, he's not included in the solar system, you know, and I think Pluto has a bit of a chip on his shoulder, you know, if we're going to use that. You know, Pluto, if you've had anything going, like if you've had Pluto going over any of your sensitive points, like your sun, the moon, one of your angles, it takes a good 4 years for Pluto to come up to that angle, reverse back over it a couple of times, and go forward again. You know, Pluto stresses us out. The energy of having Pluto going over one of these things is almost absolute. And in my experience with Pluto, we have to, at some level, realize, you know, some fights are worth winning. Some fights are just, you know, sometimes we need to recognize who has the power. Do we actually have the power right now? And I think with all of these Pluto energies, what Pluto teaches us is that we don't have the power of life and death necessarily. You know, I mean, we could take our life, and I'm not suggesting anyone does that, or take anyone's life. But, you know, like Pluto appears to have more control than us. It's hard to talk about it until you're having one of these Pluto things going on. So I'm fascinated that we've got this deeply powerful and transforming planet, that when he goes over a very sensitive part of your chart, your life is transformed. And it's usually transformed because we're trying to control our lives. You know, we're kind of in the power, we're in the game of controlling how our life goes and being very powerful about it. And then we come up against a brick wall, we come up against something that is stronger than us, which happens to us all at some point. We come against a force that is stronger than us, that we don't know how to handle. And, you know, we can fight it, which is often what happens when, you know, Pluto comes over your sun. I remember all the all of the balls that I had at that time, and how I really thought I could manipulate or work my way through my perceived barriers at that time. But actually, it wasn't until I came into an acceptance that things started to move. So what this is telling me, given that the moon can represent the child like us and children, but also our emotions and our psyche, and that the sun represents our adult self and our ego, and how we might shine our light, how we might be here to serve and to show up and to be ourselves. And it can also show our assertiveness. I really think we are learning something about just how powerful we are, and where we might want to put our energy right now, and also where we might want to acknowledge, accept, and allow. You know, I mean, the great thing is Pluto isn't in a stressful position with our sun or our moon collectively as we went into this particular season. You know, Pluto is actually here, you know, nourishing our moon, really helping us to transform the way we see things and feel things, and how we work with our psyche. You know, Pluto is allowing us to go deeper than we've gone ever before. So I think this season is going to take us on many really, really deep journeys where we might feel like we're about to lose it, maybe lose it all. And yet all of a sudden we realize, as we're allowing the situation to transform us, we're learning that there was something we were also doing that was preventing us to go to the next level. And, you know, in the trine with the sun, I think we're going to be coming into the power of maybe why we're here. We might realize that we've got reserves of power and influence in our own way. It might not be what we've been standing up for. We may well have been fighting ourselves on our journey so far. But this, I think, this season ahead is going to show us what we're made of. And for that, I think this, you know, for that reason, I think this is a really phenomenal augury of this season ahead, is this fantastically strong grand trine. Now, you know, you might have also noticed it's kite if you include Neptune as well. And that makes it even more poignant, really, because, you know, Neptune is kind of supporting us. It's facilitating our intuition. And you'll see there also that the moon is in a conjunction to Uranus. It's separating from Uranus. To me, that's an indication that our intuition is really highlighted. Oh, I'm losing my voice. Really highlighted. Oh, I got told off earlier for using or giving constructive feedback that I shouldn't use really. I use it too much. And forgive me when I do say so and really. I'm doing this live, and I don't have a script. This is coming through me in the moment. I never know exactly what I'm going to say. I have notes just to keep me slightly on track. And I am really working in real time. See, I said it. I am working in real time, and that is unfortunately that's what happens. You know, I'm not as polished and perfect as other people who maybe have had years and years in broadcasting. You know, I'm a stay-at-home mum who also works with clients from home. So anyway, Neptune shows us what we're dissolving about ourselves, what we're losing. You know, how we can. How we might escape ourselves, how we are yielding to a deeper spirituality. There's something very, very deep and also slightly scary, because, you know, if you think Neptune and the ocean, Poseidon, for instance, you know, you go into the ocean and you go swimming and you can't see beyond your your arms. You don't have to go very far out before you really can't see anything, and then you're in the water and you don't know what's around you. And I think that's a bit like the sort of psychic realms that many people, and I'm guessing you most likely feel. Like I'm guessing you're very sensitive that you're watching this, you know. So Neptune is absolutely showing us that there are lots of things that you can perceive outside of your reality, even if it's just like an energy when you go into a room, or you can read somebody's demeanor. You know what's going on. You have a deep sense of knowing. This, in opposition to both Mercury and also the Sun, to me is really saying we're coming to understand ourselves at a much deeper level. And where we ignore our psychic energy, our intuitive energy, it's at our cost. And actually, it'd be much easier if we don't fight it, but learn how to integrate the unknown into our known reality, and be open to recognizing that there might be chunks of information or chunks of sensory data that appear to be missing. You know, it's very easy to be in our brain, our rational brains, all day long, and communicating in the way we do across the world using these amazing bits of technology, and yet we come to rely on our intellect so much that we ignore what we used to have, which was a really strong sense of knowing. So I also think, you know, whilst we are developing ourselves a lot in this year ahead and coming to realize we have much greater access to power, I realize that this, you know, the deeper you're prepared to go into yourself and into your intuition, the more you're going to come on. The more you're rigidly holding on to your personality right now, the less easy it's going to be. You know, Pluto will put up a fight and he'll win. So yeah, so that's really, really important to me as I'm looking at this. I'm also seeing that Mars is applying into a Saturn trine. I like this. This is strong. It's going to get stronger. And over the next couple of weeks, Venus is going to oblige, and we're going to have a lovely, for a good 2.5 weeks or so, going to have a lovely strong trine between Venus, Mars and Saturn, giving us a lot of dexterity, a lot of determination, and the ability to balance up the seemingly opposite ideas of like masculine and femininity, and the yielding energy and also the thrusting energy. We can get some discernment with both of those styles and not have to fall into one or the other, but we can get some discernment, and get a bit of balance back and a bit of discipline around it, which I think is really, really helpful. And I think it will help to stabilize our relationships as well, which, you know, looking ahead is much needed. Couple of other things. You know, Venus and Jupiter are our benefic planets. You know, these are the planets that allow us, or, you know, are described as being the planets that have flow and opportunity. And you know, Venus is coming away from a Jupiter trine. We've just been there, and it's just separating away. So I think this equinox chart is started with a certain amount of good feeling, and the fact that, you know, the moon and the sun are both in air signs. Jupiter's also in an air sign. I see that as being really full of possibilities, that we are transforming the way we are, but we're also transforming the way we are as a people. We're transforming our connections to people. We are, I think we're about to come together again. I do think that during this season, we may well fall apart again, but actually I think this whole season is about the coming together. And part of the process of coming together is having those fallouts, I think. You know, such big fallouts that they shake us to our core and get us really to the core truth. You know, I mean, how many friends can you like count on your fingers that you can tell them everything, you know, and when you disagree with them, you can have a conversation with them? I think, you know, if I had one aim that we were all able to do by the end of this season, it would be that we could all have a conversation where we're able to say, you know, I respectfully disagree. I understand your perspective, and I hold my own. And yet that's not going to stop me from having a relationship with you. That's not going to stop me from not working things out with you and finding a way to coexist. You know, I really think this season is going to be teaching us a lot about that after quite a few years where we've been, I think we've been terrorized by the news, and social media has absolutely helped massively. And yeah, I think this is about us coming together and being able to apply ourselves with some maturity and some real wisdom. And so I am coming into this season with a sense of opportunity and optimism and hope. And I really hope that they do abide. I really do hope that they continue. Venus is also separating from a Chiron opposition, which really speaks about what I'm talking about. She's coming away from that feeling of alienation and isolation, you know, because of bullying or perceived threats to well-being. You know, Venus is moving away from this. She realizes she doesn't want to be a victim anymore. And so part of this is, how can we talk about our pain and our wound in such a way that we can move beyond this, and that there is a sense of recognition, you know, that actually everybody suffers in some way. Being here is like, I don't know anyone who hasn't suffered, and I'm not trying to pull any cards, you know, or take away somebody's suffering card. You know, like if I don't know if you've ever been really, really ill before, and been around competitive ill people, and you're like trying to pull the trump card, like who is, sorry for using that term for anyone that might be triggered. I notice lots of words are triggering people right now. So, you know, people pull a card, and, you know, there's almost a sort of inward competition about who has the greater right now to be upset and victimized. And I think Venus separating from Chiron, I'm not saying it's not okay to examine what is wrong with our society, and to recognize when things haven't gone very well for people. And I also think we are coming to a time when we need to find out how we can move beyond the stories of victimization, because I really see that the story of victims will continue and persist, and there is no winner when that happens. It becomes a free-for-all because everyone will pile in with their victim cards. And right now, you know, whenever a planet comes into an alignment with Chiron, we have a choice. I think we have a choice to find mastery and to move beyond something, to feel something, to have a genuine reaction to it, to have a genuine learning about it. And I see a lot of malingering that's perpetuated by the news, a malingering to stay in a situation that is not helpful to our evolution. And of course, we have to move, we have to grow, we have to shift to be able to evolve. So I really think that's another really, really strong step. And I'm not saying that to take away from anyone who is in, you know, genuine need or in genuine pain, because genuine need and genuine pain happen to every single one of us at some point in some way. That's my learning, you know, from, you know, working with different people from different walks of life, you know, different countries, different cultures. Nobody is without pain. And some people do have it harder than others. Absolutely. But nobody is without loss or pain, which means nobody is without the potential for growth or beauty or love or anything else. You know, I really do see we have an opportunity and a choice. So, you know, right from where I go, I love this chart for that very reason, or for these reasons. Now, the annular solar eclipse is coming in on the 2nd of October, and it's at 10 degrees in the sign of Libra. This is really strong. You know, the next eclipse following this is around the 13th, 14th of March, 2025. It's at 22 to 23 degrees in the sign of Virgo. So if you've got, you know, if you know your chart really well, it might be interesting to see where 23 degrees Virgo to 10 degrees Libra sits in your birth chart, to see if you've got any planets there. Because, you know, really the, you know, I see the eclipses as gateways, you know, so this annular solar eclipse is a new a new moon. It's starting a whole new season. It's starting this new freshness, this new opportunity to grow in a new way, which I think all new moons, in particular eclipsed new moons, do. But again, the themes of democracy, fairness, equality, resetting your grace, you know, listening, openness. It's about beauty, love, and partnering, and the gentleness that comes with Libra, but also the gentle firmness, you know, for correction, but understanding as well. You know, correction not to be punitive, but to understand that we can come together and work through things. So I really see this as an opportunity for a fresh start. Now, you know, the eclipses, I think their energy lasts until the next one comes in. So we've got this energy going until mid-March of next year, when we have a full moon, a total lunar eclipse, and it's a total one. So it's going to be pretty stunning to watch, you know, at 22, 23 degrees in the sign of Virgo. And that will definitely stir up a hornet's nest. I'm pretty sure of that one. But this is a really, really good new start for something great. It's a call for a fresh start. So, you know, we've got the first 10 days of, I think, an opportunity for us to make plans for ourselves. You know, how are you going to apply this in your life? You know, if you're wanting to move beyond, you know, like if you keep coming up to the same level each time and going round and round again, trying to move beyond a perceived limitation, I really think the start of this new season is helping us beyond that, like way beyond that. So that we start a whole new pattern and take it up a notch. But it comes with, and I think, the energy of openness, sharing, collaboration, and love. You know, it comes with the desire that everyone is going to win and that everyone is going to rise up together. That, you know, we're not doing this to spite another person, but that we're team humanity. We come together. And yeah, I might sound like a sort of Mary Poppins kind of character, and quite frankly, I'm okay with that. I'm a Sagittarius after all, so hopeful by nature. The next big patterns that I just want to sort of highlight is we've got the opposition with Mars and Pluto. It's exact on the 3rd of November, but in fact, it's really coming in from around about the 14th of October. It's, you know, Mars starts to apply, but you'll see, you know, this is the first of three. They're both right at the tail end of Cancer and Capricorn. I've spoken about these degrees with Linda Hill, who has the amazing Sabian Symbols book, that and she's got her website, sabiansymbols.com. It's a fantastic website, and these powerful degrees are really, really, really strong. In particular, this one is about powerful meetings going on in secret, you know, like the heads of organizations and governments meeting in secret. So this is a very, very powerful position, and the fact, to me, this just feels like immediately before the dreaded you-know-what's on the 5th of November in the US, that there are people meeting, like top business execs, top government bureaucrats and stuff, all meeting and in a massive conflict. You know, Pluto is, like I mentioned right at the start, seen as the hidden hand. And Mars is absolutely seen as the will to thrive and survive. And, you know, Mars here could be our hero of the piece. This could be the people. You know, I really see at this particular moment in time that people are kind of diametrically opposed to over powerful governance. You know, like the energy of people is absolutely feeling that stress of like, you know, we might like governance for a certain period of time, but when it feels like it's too much, when it is using its power against the people, then it's time to stand up. So I really, you know, I won't be at all surprised to hear, you know, if there's increases of like the numbers of riots and violence and people just being absolutely at loggerheads, but in particular with people turning against officials, you know. And I absolutely, you know, I'm not wanting, this is not to incite just because I'm talking about this energy. I'm just, you know, saying how it may well appear. And when you look at previous Pluto and Mars oppositions, you'll see that there are sort of terrorist attacks and kind of really nasty things going on. You know, in particular, there's these sort of feelings of like being ripped apart, these massive egos and control issues, you know, and I really see like the secret powers versus personal power. You know, there is this very strong feeling of, you know, where is the power? Who has the power? Do you have the power or do you not have the power? And it's primal. Now, this is how it might appear in the world, but, you know, this is about how you are likely to be using this energy. And my big question to you is, where is this falling in your chart? Like, do you have angles here? Which house is this in? And obviously I will be detailing this in a much, you know, more specific forecast about, you know, Pluto and Mars in an opposition. Absolutely. Because it's one of the biggest, I think one of the biggest energies this year, and it's persistent for a long time. But you might want to ask yourself, where am I feeling overpowered? Where do I feel trampled on? You know, like, where do I feel like I need to stand up for my rights? And, you know, they're both also very sexual planets. And so, you know, there might be a sort of like some very deep sexual information that's revealed that might set everybody completely on edge. You know, Pluto and Mars in an opposition is totally abusive, or it can be abusive, you know, with games of aggression and assertiveness, and sexual energy playing into these things. But, you know, in your actual day-to-day living, this could just really sort of animate itself as some very deep attraction, you know, to your partner, hopefully. You know, this could actually be used in a quite a fantastic way. This could really enliven you. You know, if you're wanting to get fit, this energy gives you a lot of determination. And I would absolutely advise that you just, you know, watch how far you're pushing yourself, because, you know, with this very strong opposition, you know, it could absolutely push you. Like you could do yourself an injury. But, you know, working hard for influence and working hard to feel empowered and to feel like you're thriving is definitely a theme. And like I said, this is coming in from mid-October, and it's with us right the way through to the end of April of 2025. So this is not something that's like coming up and it's going to go to sleep. This is a really strong ongoing theme that's hitting 3 big times. You know, the 3rd of November is the first real pop at it. So big stuff. Now there's some turning points that are going on this year or this season, and Uranus and Jupiter are having a lot of oppositions. So we've largely gone through, we've gone through the time of our Saturn and Neptune oppositions with the personal planets, you know, because we're well out of the Pisces season now. It's only the moon that's going to be making oppositions to Saturn and Neptune. But what we've got is, as the Sun, Mercury and Venus are moving through the sign of Scorpio and into sign of Sagittarius, and obviously Venus is like leading the way at the moment. She's going to get to Aquarius by the time we get to the end of this season. But as these signs, this is literally a snapshot taken from the midpoint of the whole season, because I just wanted to try and capture it. But, you know, as we are coming into this season, first of all, Venus will go into an opposition with Scorpio, followed hot on the heels by the Sun going into an opposition with Neptune. Again, it's through the signs of Scorpio and Taurus. And then finally, on the 30th of October, Mercury will be exactly in an opposition to Uranus. And, you know, straight after that, we've got Venus going into an opposition with Jupiter, followed by Mercury going into an opposition with Jupiter, and then the Sun going into an opposition with Jupiter. What you'll notice there is the planets are all working at very different speeds. You know, Mercury is kind of speeding up after, is getting faster, and it will be due to have a retrograde as well a little later on in the season. But we've got these 3 personal planets: the Sun about your expression, Mercury about the way you're communicating and moving information around, how quick you are to work through information and process things, and of course Venus, which is about our relationships, you know, how we're relating to people. Now the energy of Uranus is stop start, and it's shocking, it's chaotic. So chaos is definitely a good word. It's also electric. It's also nuclear. It's also very much about the internet. It's very telepathic. Uranus is like the sort of connection that connects us all together. I do think awakening is absolutely linked into the energy of Uranus. So it's interesting that, first of all, we've got Venus in an opposition to Uranus, which I think is going to absolutely awaken our I think it's going to awaken us to how other people feel. I think it's going to awaken a shocking amount of compassion, and also quite possibly put us out of sorts with people. This particular kind of opposition, or any kind of Venus and Uranus, can also bring up crushes, very strong feelings for people suddenly. So I think there's going to be possibly some very really strong feelings that people are having in the public domain. I think people are going to be almost beside themselves, suddenly having these very, very strong feelings about people. And I don't know whether they're sort of positive or negative, possibly both at the same time. But it's really changing how we're relating to people. We might find that, obviously it's the 15th of October, 3 weeks away from the American elections. It may well be creating some conflict in communities if you are based in America. I mean, I'm in Portugal and there's lots of Americans around me, and I'm already picking up on lots of stories about, people falling out locally in our communities. And I'm sure it's going to have massive resonance and an effect to the Western world. I said it really pointedly because, this seems to be affecting sort of Canada, Australia, Europe, England, and America, and maybe South Africa a little bit, and other cultures and parts of the world might just be watching and thinking, that's interesting. Yeah, okay. That doesn't look very secure. So, I think, Westerners are going to be feeling this a lot more at the moment. Yeah, the sun going into the opposition with Uranus, I think, is going to suddenly surprise you about what you're capable of knowing and doing. Maybe it will bring up some extra skills, or it might highlight what skills you need to develop in yourself to move you forwards for the rest of the season and maybe for life. I mean, the sun and Uranus in an opposition is, I think, also like a discovery. You're discovering something about yourself, and it could really be shocking and also exciting, because Uranus is desperately exciting as well. And then Mercury in the opposition, I think this is so close to the election. I think Mercury in the opposition is going to ignite some kind of information war, possibly to the effect with, like, I don't know, news media, the internet, whatever, there are outages or something like that. Uranus is, and I say that like deliberate outages, I think, information could go really berserk around that time. Mercury is the very human mind, but he's also the person communicating to the humans and sharing information with the gods. Mercury is a go-between, he's a messenger. And then Uranus, is also about consciousness, human consciousness, the shock and the rawness of human consciousness. Are we being opened up to some massive drop of information that shocks us to the core, or are we absolutely in some kind of like deeply rocking stasis point, where information is just flying backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards? These Uranus energy patterns are fraught with chaos. And, the energies of oppositions just pull us out of ourselves. The best place is to be in the center, like get into the center as soon as you can. Mercury and Uranus could actually be quite beneficial for us in that opposition. According to what's going on in your chart, you may well find that suddenly, because you're feeling the sense of impending change, or tension, that something needs to resolve, something could absolutely just resolve just like that for you. So, each of these has a flip side. It's not all bad. And the flip side of these is that you come on in leaps and bounds, and it's really exciting. So your love, your career, your talent, and your communication can absolutely come on in leaps and bounds in a really incredible way. And all forms of media are absolutely highlighted, because this this tight tension between the personal planets and Uranus. It's almost like pulling things so tight that it almost like trampolines up, you know. I've got a trampoline out there. That's why I was thinking about that. You know, I see my kids on it, you know, but it's like that tension. It's actually going to create, I mean, it could break, but I'm actually seeing this is an opportunity for us to springboard out of a situation and really change our own personal outcomes. And if we all do that, if we're all doing that collectively, and, you know, Uranus is about sort of mass consciousness, then, you know, we could have a huge effect on our environments, on, you know, in our peer groups and things. So, you know, I think we could actually be having a turning point about our personal joy. But again, it really depends on where you want to be at this time. Do you want this season to be the season of your victimhood? You know, or do you want this to be a turning point where you come into your own power and boom, you know, all of a sudden your life is turning around in a really significant way? Because both are equally able to happen. I really see that, you know, with the way things are sort of pitted, and it not just about the elections, but, you know, right now, you know, there are people like, you know, talking about whether there should be a nuclear war, and how far, you know, what are we going to do? You know, there is a stalemate situation, and, you know, we could be in the position of feeling like a victim about it, you know, because there are people outside of our control who could literally put a finger on a button and blow our reality out of the water. And yet it's when we are in these situations where we realize that there are always going to be people at the top making decisions for the likes of you and I. In fact, you might be one of them. Who knows? Who knows? You know, like this, you know, I record this for everyone. Everyone's welcome to watch this. So, but, you know, like, are we going to sit and wait for somebody to make a decision about us? Or are we going to take the control of our own life and develop something with it? Are we going to sit back and wait to see what happens, you know, come the 5th of November, or, you know, when Europe and Russia fall out finally in a inescapable way? Or are we going to take life into our hands and live it like absolutely in the best way we can, and stay in our center and absolutely stay in our power? That is, I think, the beauty of this season, is you can be outside of yourself in the business of everyone else that you can't actually make a big deal about or really significantly change, or you can absolutely be inside, nurturing yourself, going through the things that have held you back before and recognizing them, taking accountability for them, and looking at your patterns and moving beyond them. The astrology is so busy right now and so intense that I think you are about to make massive leaps forwards if you are open enough and absolutely wanting that enough. I really truly believe that. And then we've got the next set of oppositions, you know, Venus opposition Jupiter, Mercury opposition Jupiter, and Sun opposition Jupiter. So, you know, our loves and our relatedness, our communication and what we're sharing, and once again, how we want to radiate our divine energy. You know, how are we doing that? Are we really in our energy? Are we, you know, have you integrated all of yourself? You know, have you left a part of you over there and a part of you over there, and a bad memory here and a this, that, there? Or are you going to bring it all in and integrate it somehow? You know, when this goes into the opposition with Jupiter, you know, things, if you're on a tricky track, it could inflame what is, you know, the road that you're already going down, because Jupiter, I don't think he judges it necessarily. I think Jupiter's a bit happy slappy, and he'll, you know, increase whatever you give him. And if you're on a dodgy path, that can absolutely inflame your dodgy path. But if you're already making and taking concerted efforts to really work with your energy, really work with your energy to make sure that you are evolving and you're open to rising up. If you are on that kind of frame of thought and you are moving your life forwards, I think that is when Jupiter comes beautifully into focus and he helps to move you along. So this could be absolutely, these are turning points that could be very, very stressful, and yet they could have some really beautiful outcomes, really, truly. The biggest dates then, before I look at each month on a, each zodiacal month. To be fair, actually, a lot of the forecast is already coming out, I think. So 13th to 17th of October, massive series of events, which I think is about internal conflict, subterfuge, kind of spies, and what people will do, like the idea of winning at all costs. And I'm not saying any of that towards a particular person or party or anything. I think the energy is there. What can we do to win at all costs? So Mercury's going into Scorpio, so all of a sudden Mercury wants to go deeper and is a lot more intense. Our thoughts are really, really intense. Mars is applying into the opposition with Pluto, so that opposition is coming in. And at the start, it tends to raise up a level of irritation and frustration. Venus goes into the opposition with Uranus on the same day. So, Mars opposite Pluto coming into the opposition, and Venus in an exact opposition with Uranus. It is quite explosive. Venus is also moving into Sagittarius, and I said I wasn't going to mention the moon so much, but there is also a full moon in Aries on that day, or on the 17th, I think that is. So this is, a very, very strong 4 days with intense thoughts, possible, like developing resentments, and a feeling like, we're being really stretched in our loyalties, stretched in our feelings. And then when Venus goes into Sagittarius, she comes into this real place of honesty. Venus and Sagittarius, carefree in relationships, but really, really honest, and she's relating to people with a lot, with maybe less tact. And the full moon in Aries will absolutely bring that out. So yes, this is a time of conflict. So, if you've got tons of stuff, in Taurus, Gemini, Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, and or Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius, those 4 days are really kind of creating a lot of internal conflict and irritation. Now, and I don't suppose you're remotely surprised by this at all, but the 2nd to the 4th of November has got the 2 big exact oppositions and 2 personal planets changing signs. So Mercury goes into Sagittarius. So communications really get, they could get really, really offensive and silly almost. Mercury's not very happy in the sign of Sagittarius. He's in his detriment in Sagittarius. So people want to talk about the greater context, but will probably go off on a tangent and then possibly be a bit rude or snarky. Mars in opposition to Pluto. That's the first of the exact oppositions. That's such a big energy. Mars then immediately after goes into Leo. So Mars is moving forwards. Not only is he in his opposition to Pluto, but he's moving forwards, marching into the next sign, just as Venus goes into the exact opposition with Jupiter. So again, the first one had a Venus opposition with Uranus. This one is a Venus opposition with Jupiter. The energies, these 2 big oppositions and sign changes is big. So I think there's going to be some very, very big reveals and massive changes right before that 5th of November. It wouldn't even, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't go ahead, or like something happens immediately before it that clouds it or stops it. And then the 6th to the 8th of December, I really see this as a time when there's some very intense relationships, massive ego stuffs, and quite possibly releasing some resentments. So, however it goes on the 5th of November, I'm quite sure that there will be some people who are really, really ecstatically happy and some who are really, really terribly upset and resentful and angry. And, you know, some people might even feel both of that. You know, I think there's just so much going on around this that, you know, you could be a whole mass of emotions at this time. So Mars is going retrograde on the 6th from the sign of Leo. Venus is going into Aquarius. Venus, this is so strong. I forgot about this. Venus is going into a conjunction with Pluto at 0 degrees in the sign of Aquarius. Now, this is quite significant, you know, so these two are in a conjunction. Now, I've put a little star against those, and I think on another slide I actually say what it's about. But when Jupiter and Saturn came together in 2020, they come together in a conjunction every 20 years or so, and it's called a grand conjunction. And they came together. Their last grand conjunction was 0 degrees in the sign of Aquarius on the 21st of December 2020. And the grand conjunctions are seen as these administrative resets, these like the setting of one order, like the changing of an order. Now it's really interesting because that's, you know, 9 months after, or it was just before the big rollout of vaccines, and it's at a time, you know, since then, you know, we've had Saturn go through Uranus. Obviously Jupiter rushed, you know, went through Aquarius in a year or just under. Now Pluto's about to go into Aquarius, and he has done at that point. But the 0 Aquarius, I think, is really significant because you know, this pattern between Jupiter and Saturn is, I think, one of the first ones in an air sign for years and years and years. They go in they go in these cycles, these 60-year cycles, these 180-year cycles. And so it's really sowing the seed in a new way, bringing in a whole new idea of an order. And since then, there have been a lot of Aquarian themes kind of just really ramped up in everyone's faces in a way that you couldn't really see growing slowly over time. It's like all of a sudden the Aquarius issues have been really in our face, up close and personal, in a way that hasn't really allowed for anyone to slowly integrate things over time. And so things to do with AI, technology are absolutely up there. I think the Internet of Things is something that's a real sort of Pluto in Aquarius thing right now, but also, you know, very much about, you know, a desire to create the world in that way. You know, all the discussions about gender, and affirming gender is also a very sort of Aquarian theme. And we've also got themes of, you know, like who's responsible for children? Is it the state or the parents? You know, there's lots of different ideas now. You know, there are ideas, you know, like who is in control? You know, like power is changing from being in the governments to now being regulated through a collection of governments that may all be ruled by something else, you know, underneath it all. Like you might find out that there's one great big company managing all the countries, and there's these like massive blocks of countries doing different things. So there is, I think, a change in the way we are administering ourselves, or, you know, like power is administered and shared. So this is really significant. Venus in a conjunction with Pluto, which could be volatile, is right on that moment of, you know, the dawning of the new age of Aquarius, or the new administrative age of Aquarius. Who knows how that's going to play out. And then, you know, around the same time, the Sun goes into opposition with Jupiter. And there's another one that comes up. Venus also makes a conjunction with Mars. It's a few days later. But boy, this 6th to the 8th of December is absolutely a massive, energetic, huge. So that's my walk through the like the energies as I see them. What I'm going to do in a second is not talk so much about the planets, but just about the energy on a month-by-month basis for everyone. So maybe a bit less detail, but yeah, more of how you might work with that energy. So this is the main part of the forecast, and this is the forecast for the 3 months ahead for the whole of this particular season, whether it's autumn for you in the Northern Hemisphere or spring for you in the Southern Hemisphere. I'm going to be looking at each of the months with quite a lot of scrutiny in terms of, I guess, how you will best use those energies, how they might serve you and bring about quite a lot of personal change and growth. In the first part of this video, I speak about the specific planetary patterns in quite a lot of detail. There was a lot of the forecast that came out in that, I have to say. So if you do have an appetite for the planetary alignments, do have a look at this. But in this one, this forecast, it's an energy update for every single sign of the zodiac. And I'll do it on a sign by, like on a, like an astrological month by astrological month. So I'll look through the Libra time first, the Scorpio time, and the Sagittarius time, which are the 3 signs that are really highlighted in this season. So let's have a look now. What you'll see in this first part of this season, for the first month of it, taking us from the 22nd of September right through to the 21st of October. And this chart is from midway through the month to really capture, you know, the overall energy. You'll see I've not got any houses. Like usually when I'm doing my forecasts, I've got it written here like first house, second house, etc. And that's how I know how it fits in with your sign. I'm doing this generically for everybody, really commenting on the energy. So the first thing that I think is worth noting about, you know, the first month in this season, really taking us from these times, is that we're coming into a time where there is a great amount of stability to change your relationships and to grow your relationships and to get a balance between standing up for yourself and needing to really fight hard, but also being able to know how to be graceful and how to conserve your energy and conserve your relationships. You know, there's a distinction, there's a discernment that's really coming out in this first month. I really put that down to the trine, the ongoing trine between Saturn, Venus, and Mars. And really what that's doing is giving you an opportunity to get really clear and focused with your feelings. They're all in the water signs. It's helping you understand your feelings and also understand that you don't have to be in like taking things personally with your feelings. You know, there are other options. You know, this month is going to teach you a lot about persistence with your emotions, to be able to look at your emotions and work out which ones are really, really real, which ones are maybe being ramped up by your sense of panic or sense of underlying triggers. You know, this month feels really instructional, you know, like it's giving you the chance to be able to discern what is absolutely a real threat to you and absolutely what isn't, and what you can work from. So I see a down regulation, like if this is working well, I see that this is a down regulation of, you know, a level of abject stress that was coming up at the end of last season. You know, so I'm seeing that, and maybe it's because you've chosen to make a different choice. Maybe you've just decided, you know what, you know, that summer was really hard hitting. There were some really big emotions, lots of big swings and turns and twists and stuff. And actually, for my own health, for my own sanity, I now realize that I do have a choice on how I'm feeling. And so I think this month is actually giving you what you need to be able to navigate that. What's really beautiful about it, and I've just realized I've got a spelling mistake here, but what's really beautiful about it is there is the annular solar eclipse, and that is connecting the sun and the moon around the 2nd of October in a really beautiful place that is absolutely about getting on in the world and finding peace and finding a sense of equilibrium. You know, it's starting a new way forwards. To me, it's like you've made a conscious decision that unless it's leading you to peace, unless it's leading you to love, why bother? So you might be asking yourself the question, what would love do right now? You know, so with every conflict that comes up, with every trigger that comes up, with every email that, you know, historically might have made you go, oh my God, get ready to respond, or go, oh, and then go into a freeze, you know, like a fight or flight or freeze kind of response. You know, you're not having to be triggered by everything. And so this annular solar eclipse on the 2nd, you know, if you are ready to make a decision, or if there's a course you want to do, or something that will help you study amongst like-minded individuals, and I think there's many, many people out there that actually do want to learn to use their emotions in a different way, then I think this is perfect for it. It's also a time when we are beautifying ourselves. I think there is this, you know, especially again, you know, Venus and Mars and Saturn in a trine. It's really restorative. You know, there's a true cost, you know, to being stressed out and being swayed, like having your emotions pulled one way and then pulled another, and then you're pulled this way and that way because somebody else is emotional around you, you know, and then just as they get their balance, you might go off again. So there is a cost of that, and it's not just the emotions, but it's the cost, it's the wear and the tear on the body. And so I really also see that your decision to you know, choose to live life in a way that is not going to give you those massive peaks and troughs. It is also to restabilize and to like work back some health. You know, I don't know if you can do that, but you know how people are talking about making savings and putting savings in their bank and, you know, like creating this little nest egg for yourself. What if you could put some energetic resource into your body, put some energetic resource into how you feel, into how you look? You know, the annular solar eclipse in this first month of the season is also really great in terms of shaping up or doing something in terms of how you look and how that makes you feel. So you may well feel that, you know, I don't know, some form of regular massage or saunas or gym or walks or whatever it is that is not only restoring your mental health, but also your physical health. So I think this is good. Now, also the fact that I've had a little peek at the next month, the more Scorpio side of this season, you know, I can already see some of the pressures that are coming up around that time. And I think the more you can work at getting the equilibrium inside, and enjoying that sense of peace that comes from knowing that you've eaten well or dressed well or looked after your home a little bit more, or I don't know, done your nails, you know, the little, it's almost like it doesn't matter how big or how small it is, but it's the effort that you're investing in yourself and the effort that you're investing in your peace that is making the difference. And it, like I said, it really doesn't have to be big, but every day you make a small decision to make one little step forwards, you are putting yourself on a pathway of peace. And, you know, even if you come off that from time to time, which we all do, you know, it's much easier to get on if you've already created like these little incremental steps. But if you make this great big gesture to change everything all at once, you might find that it's too much, because again, it takes you out of your peace. You might be able to brainwash yourself and you might have lots of discipline, you know, which will make you think, okay, yeah, I can definitely do this. But again, if you're almost bullying yourself and taking on too much, it won't last. And so this beautiful annular solar eclipse is there to really help you establish some beautiful habits that are not going to impose themselves too much on your life. They're not going to take you out of balance. In fact, they're going to enhance your life. So, you know, with this beautiful grand trine between Venus and Mars and Saturn, which is there for a good 2.5 weeks or so, you know, from when it starts to when it ends, and the annular solar eclipse on the 2nd of October, this is a really beautiful time to make some change and create some peace for yourself. And, you know, there are lots of different parts of this month that are getting you to think deeper. It's almost like as you're clearing away some of the old tendencies to get really involved with things and to get whipped into a frenzy, you're actually, instead of using that energy to get angry about something, you're now using that energy to say, well, damn, that's interesting. I wonder what that might mean, you know, because that feeling of peace that's being created for you is giving you some extra space to explore any subject that you choose at a much deeper level. And that's really fundamental, and absolutely offering you like new perspectives and a new chance to grow, like something new. I started to lose my words there because I noticed I said really, and I, you know, somebody commented on how much I use the word really. So if I'm really trying, oh God, there it is again. I'm trying to be as measured as possible as I, you know, deliver this. Now, as we're coming into the middle of the Libra time, Mars is starting to come into an opposition with Pluto. Now, he is going to be in an opposition to Pluto pretty much between the mid-October until the beginning of May, you know, and this is an energy that is, I think, creating a lot of force. It's creating a really big physical dynamic for you. It's creating a lot of energy that can be used in lots of different ways. Hence why I think one of the great ways of working it out is to do some kind of body work whereby you're building your muscles in some way. Anywhere where you're using your muscles and your body to be able to survive better. And the reason I say that is, you know, Mars in an opposition to Pluto, it brings up survival themes. You know, what will I need for my survival? What steps can I take right now so that I'm much stronger in my body, so that I stand a much better chance if ever, you know, I'm in a stressful situation. And I think working with your body in a particular way, again, you know, like the energy of working with your body is really beneficial. So you might be attracted to things like judo or some form of martial arts, in particular one with a discipline, because Mars in opposition to Pluto is creating such a sort of crackling energy underneath everything. And it's really important that we use that energy so that, you know, we don't get a build-up of aggression, a build-up of frustration and resentment, which can absolutely happen with Mars in an opposition to Pluto. I mean, you might find that, you know, the next 6 months are a little bit jumpy, you know, that people are a little bit, you know, they're sounding off a lot more than ever before. And it might look, especially on the TV. Now, I never really know if what we see on the TV is true as in real life. For some people it is. I'm guessing, you know, when like our town centres get completely overrun with a massive riot or big protest or something, the energy of protest is coming up with Mars in an opposition to Pluto. Another reason why I think it's really helpful for you to develop for yourself the gift of discernment and the gift of giving yourself some more space, because it doesn't matter what you're agreeing with necessarily. You know, you have your views and you have your choices that you can make. And when you are getting caught into a conversation, it might be taking you out of a pathway of health, of well-being, and of feeling calm in yourself. And so, you know, Mars in an opposition to Pluto, it may well appear that everything is going wrong and everything's being pulled apart, that there's no peace. There's just angry people everywhere. Everyone's angry. You know, that is all it is, you know, and I'm sure the media will hype that up to the maximum, you know. So my absolute, recommendation is to get outside of your house, turn the TV off and see actually what is going on. Notice where people are actually being helpful. You know, Mars in opposition to Pluto can bring up a load of argy-bargy for sure, but it can also bring up an energy of wanting to take practical action. You know, so not everyone is going to go down the rioting route or the protest route. Lots of people will just think, actually, I need to do something for myself, and I'm going to do something that will help me, will help my family, will help my neighborhood. And it might be taking practical action about something like fixing things, like I mentioned in terms of keep fit, like doing martial arts and things, but using your hands, your body, using all of your physicality, your strength and your discernment to make a difference, to give you better odds. And, you know, in doing so, raising your self-esteem. Around this time as well, so the 13th to the 17th in this first part of the the season ahead, that is the time that is more virulent and strong in its energetic force. You know, so not only is Mars going into the opposition with Pluto, but Venus is also going into an opposition with Uranus. And so you might find that relationships do get quite exciting at this time. Like if you are single, you know, the 14th, 15th and 16th, 17th, you know, they could be a great time to meet somebody who you have this really strong, sudden connection with that is absolutely deeply sexual, because Mars and Pluto are both sexual planets. Venus is also a relationship planet, and Uranus brings up a suddenness and a new start. But anything that you are creating right now and also passionate about, anything that you are relating to, is exciting. You know, it is creating tension, and it's that tension that is creating the movement, that is creating a new opportunity to work with your energy in a new way. So, you know, Mars opposition Pluto, Venus opposition Uranus, it could be explosive, and it could be the start of something really new. Now, Venus is going to be going into Sagittarius, and you know, we are wanting to be a lot more lighthearted. We don't want to be as intense as we've been in previous months. You know, this is a time when you want to be around people who are bringing you joy, not who are banging on about something again. You know, like beating the drum of a particular I don't know, item of news, item of interest, you know, going on and on and on and on. Now, Venus in Sagittarius, you know, is wanting to react and relate to people in a fun, carefree way, in a way of reciprocity, in a way of sharing. There's nothing nicer than this time, like to go out walking in the springtime woods, in the autumn woods, and absolutely love nature, because Venus in Sagittarius is all very much nature bound. So this is a time to you know, not only are you choosing something like peace and choosing to look after yourself so that you don't get dragged into different situations, you know, but you're also making powerful new changes that can absolutely give you your sense of empowerment back. As we're coming to the end of this time and about to go, you know, the sun's about to go into the sign of Scorpio, we have this opposition with Uranus. So the sun in opposition to Uranus is kind of challenging you and saying, okay, well, who really are you? What do you really stand for? Because I think, you know, the kind of change that you'd have been on during this time will have, will have given you a different view of what you're capable of what you can actually achieve. So I think this is shocking you into a new awareness. It's these times are kind of stirring you to understand that you're much more capable, much more powerful, much more ready to take a step forwards in your life and to get back in control after, frankly, many years where things have felt like they've been out of your hands. So let's move into the energy of the Scorpio times, which is going to take us through this season from the 22nd of October to the 21st of November. And this also has a very virulent and strong time in particular, and kind of unsurprisingly, between the 2nd, 3rd and 4th, it's very, very intense. So we've got Mercury in an opposition to Uranus right at the end of October. And that is, I think, I've already mentioned like a shocking awareness, but I think it might interfere with our connections and our devices. You know, this feeling that there's a lot of devices that are suddenly full of shocking energy. Now, I realize as I said that might have sounded like I'm alerting you about like pages going off and things like that. That wasn't, you know, my idea. I don't want to worry you at all, because, you know, I don't think there's much we can do if people are wanting to attack us. There's, you know, all we can do is what we can do with our own body, with our own mind, and we can take reasonable precautions. But like Mercury in an opposition to Uranus, to me, is like the idea of communications going absolutely crazy. You know, Mercury is about the messages between you and everyone else, and also like Mercury is a messenger between here, this realm, and the next realm. You know, Mercury can go anywhere and give us messages. So, you know, if you're a channel, if you're somebody who uses your intuition, this could absolutely bring in some real pearls of wisdom. So if you do use the sort of energy of Mercury and Uranus to download something very rich and deep that could help you or answer solutions for the world, then that would be fantastic. It's a great energy to do it. But I think it could also be a massive energy overload, an information overload. Maybe something is going to be revealed that's going to be shocking to people. To me, this is an energy that is absolutely really inflaming and so dynamic. It could change the way we are viewing information. So I don't know if suddenly social networking will go down in some way, or like some providers will suddenly get attacked and get cut, whether the news feed will cut, whether the internet will go. I really can't say, you know, but this is the kind of energy where the methods that we use to communicate with each other could get affected. You know, it's in they're through the signs of Scorpio and Taurus. You know, so Scorpio is a planet that, a sign that is associated with not knowing when to stop. You know, if you want the power, how far are you prepared to go? And the sign of Taurus is absolutely really stubborn and doesn't want to move. And so these two planets in opposition are really stubborn and kind of goading each other to go that extra mile. So, you know, that's one of the oppositions I'm a little bit worried about, given its timing. I just think this is an interesting one. It might just be that there's this really big piece of world news that just shocks everyone and goes like wildfire around the world. But to me, that's just really big news. And then the second, third, and fourth, the second, third, and fourth is just really, really big energy. So Mercury goes into Sagittarius, and so Mercury's function isn't as swift and as slick as usual. You know, Mercury in Sagittarius is in his detriment. Mercury's not that, he's a little bit woolly in that sign. My Mercury's in Sagittarius, which is why I always use so many words and start my sentence and drift off and then finally come back. You know, Mercury goes around the houses a bit and is always looking at the higher context of things. Isn't just wanting to communicate the message, but communicating what that message also means. And so I think that could lead to a lot of confusion as to what is right and what is wrong, because all of a sudden facts are blown into great big stories. And also at this time, we get the first of the very, very strong Mars oppositions to Pluto. Now, this is a time not to push yourself. Like if you are on some kind of health kick and you're looking after your body, this would absolutely be a time when you don't want to overdo it. And, you know, it's absolutely not a time to, you know, like challenge yourself to like just don't do it too much, because Mars doesn't know when to stop and is in opposition to Pluto. He's like, yeah, just try me, mate. Just push me and see what happens. And so it's that kind of energy. So nothing needs to be pushed on this time, because the energy of I'm so ready to just take drastic action. You know, you don't want to provoke anything around that time, and especially not in yourself. You know, because our ability to be calm and measured and not suddenly react and respond in an angry and triggered way, that's just going to go through the roof. So, you know, like we don't have the same kind of discernment and calm as we usually do. So if, as you're listening to this, if you are in America and if you are very, very attached to the outcome of your elections, that's why I think the first part of the season is really essential, is that you find your Zen and you practice your Zen and you get really, really good at practicing your Zen, so that as we're coming into this time, which could absolutely send everyone's heart rates right off the scale, you know, that you have the presence of mind and you've already developed a certain level of fitness and wellness in yourself and a peace in yourself, so that whatever is going on with what seems like a massive circus to most people, I think right now, you know, whatever is going on, it's not going to distract you as much as it would have done had you not prepared yourself by working in a way that is peaceful and is helping you. You know, I really stress again, you know, there are so many stressful positions in this month. And one of the things about this time, if you have a look down here, it says Pluto goes into Aquarius for the last time, and he's going to be in Aquarius, you know, from the 19th of November. Now, between the 19th of November right the way through to, I think, like towards the end of July next year, which is just 9 months, we've got Pluto changing signs, the North Node changing signs, Neptune changing signs, Saturn changing signs, Jupiter changing signs, and finally Uranus changing signs. They are all the slowest planets, and the North Node, which is about our fate. So this is, you know, there is a massive scene reset going on. And, you know, unless you are one of these people who is in the know, at the top of your game, connected to these world players, and unless you are somebody who has a lot of sway, you know, you're not going to get much of a choice as to what is coming into your world right now. The only choice any of us have is our reaction and how we cope with it. And what I've observed, you know, in my clients, but also mainly in myself, from where I've allowed myself to worry for 4 years about what's been going on the planet and how it's been changing. So what appears so quickly in quite a very, very polar time. I've never known a time quite as polarized as this. I think the more all of us can do to find ourselves in a place of equilibrium, the better off we'll be as we get closer and closer and closer to Mars opposing Pluto exactly, and obviously Pluto ingressing into Aquarius for the last time. You know, this is about big business kind of giving way to a new kind of ruling, like a new form of rulership. Now, you know, how that turns out, who knows? You know, myself and loads of other astrologers have speculated about Pluto in Aquarius. And if you do want to see my take on it from 18 months ago, and also from earlier this year in January, I've recorded 2 different videos and forecasts about it. But, you know, things are changing so quickly in the world that I'll probably have to record another one in November anyway. So, yeah, the more you can do to prepare resiliency for yourself and a feeling of survival, whatever you need to do, do it. Take practical action now so that you feel that you are calm, ready, and also that you can develop a bit of distance between you and the TV, or you and the neighbor that gets you dragged into these situations, or you and your employer who, you know, is absolutely, you know, going a different way, or wanting you to be part of some kind of voting system. Who knows? You know, all the sort of pressures that are around us all the time. And like I said earlier in, you know, a different part, it's not all about the American election. I mean, there's so many different things going on right now with you know, big changes in the UK, posturing for World War III. There's any number of things that could be kicking off around this time. So get into your peace and develop peace as much as you can, and use these oppositions to develop your skills. Use these oppositions to focus your mind, to use some discipline, and to develop yourself in a way that you could not imagine. Like, draw a much bigger line for yourself. So, you know, if you'd always had the idea of, like, I don't know, publishing a blog or something, write a book, or, you know, like, do something like the next thing up, do it bigger and bolder, like make some really big decisions for yourself. Because right now we all need to be in the energy of getting excited about ourselves and developing what's inside here, not just reacting to what's out here on the outside, even though it's highly, highly compelling and very, very difficult to ignore. The more we can find our peace here, the better off we are. So straight after this opposition and just before the election day, Mars also goes into Leo, gets very, very strident. Venus also goes into opposition with Jupiter. you know, and Venus in opposition to Jupiter, I think we can go over the top. We can go a little bit further than we mean to. We lose sense of maybe the boundaries that we might normally have. You know, it's almost like a happy drunk that says a bit too much, you know, and he just lets slip on something. It's those kinds of energies of letting slip that could absolutely create a bit of chaos. Now, the other side of, there's not much. I mean, obviously the moon will be moving around everything all the time, but the next big thing after the lead up to the election is Venus going into Capricorn, which I think is signaling the desire for everyone to just kind of hibernate a little bit, to relax. You know, I want to say the pressure is off. Sadly, I don't think that's the truth. I actually think after the elections, there's a lot of stuff that's going to ramp up again. But immediately after, I think, you know, that week after, it just feels like, okay, oh man, I just need to rest. I need to come into myself. I need to know what to do and what my next step might be. And, you know, and how this might work. You know, if you're one of these people that's happy with what happens, you might know that there's lots of people that's going to be sad and unhappy with what has happened. And so I really think during this time, it's not about, I don't know. I think our emotions are becoming more stoic and practical, you know, so it's not about showiness. It's not about, what I actually think is the way we're relating is we're just deciding, okay, we need to get on now. We need to just move beyond this. We need to be able to start over in a new way. And we just need to be practical. So it's like, just keep relating to people. Don't stop relating. Just keep moving through this. We will all find a way. The 18th and the 19th, you know, Mercury in an opposition to Jupiter is quite strong. And again, that feeling of loose lipness, you know, where things might slip, things come out, and then leading into Pluto going into Aquarius. To me, there's some really, really big energies there that are that people are wanting to be right about and to make a point about. But again, Venus in Capricorn is really encouraging us to relate with respect and relate to each other from a place of patience and also from a place of wisdom and maturity. You know, a bit like there are lots of memes at the moment about like poking the bear in Russia, you know, like how much do you want to poke the bears around you? There's going to be lots of bears and there's going to be lots of pokers after the election, which, you know, I don't know how it's going to unfold. There's going to be lots of people wanting to poke the bear. And I think that's dangerous. You know, I think there is a time of healing. However it goes, there is a time of healing that is coming up. And the more we can just be practical and just decide we need to get on with each other, and we can do this, and we've all got a job to do. You know, I see this as a start of coming back. And then we move into, so this is possibly the darker side, I think, or the time of some really high energies, and then the time of some real deep need for rest, and to yeah, just consider where we are at every time, you know, and to use our sort of discernment as much as possible. And then we come into the latter part of the season, as we're coming into the Sagittarius part from the 22nd of November to the 21st of December. And this is where we get the retrogrades coming in. So Mercury starts to go retrograde on the 25th of November, and then on the 6th of December, Mars goes retrograde. So yeah, be careful what you are believing around this time, and also, you know, watch your energy levels. Like Mars retrograde, you know, it reminds us of our fragility. It reminds us of our vulnerabilities, and it also reminds us of the rawness of our energy, and what can happen when we don't know how to manage our power, our assertiveness, how to know when we're being aggressive. You know, all bets are off. You know, I think that is the poked bear energy around the time of Mars retrograde. You know, people are feeling sore. And I don't know where this is going to show up in your chart, because, you know, everyone's chart is different. Your chart, you know, Mars might be going retrograde in your 5th house, or it might be going retrograde in your 9th house. Who knows? But if you know how to read your birth chart, see where it's going to be going retrograde. It's going retrograde right the way through to the end of the season and beyond. It's a long, slow retrograde, and you know, this Mars retrograde is a time of where we're not feeling very strong, and also feeling very sore, and also wanting to build back our strength quite quickly. So it's not a time to provoke things. And, you know, on the 3rd of January, you know, the other side of this season, there's another Mars and Pluto retrograde, a Mars and Pluto opposition. And that is really, really strong. You know, especially with that retrograde Mars. So it's an important time to observe. You know, you've got Mercury and Mars retrograde. You know, that's our belief systems, our ability to communicate, and our ability to feel like we can protect ourselves. You know, there are some very, very sort of vulnerable and raw feelings there. Something else to focus on in regard to Mars retrograde, you know, like, you know, we are feeling a bit more sore, and we don't have as much energy. We don't have as much determination to continue with the projects that we want to do around that time. And, you know, like normally with Mars, it's very outward facing. You know, we are, you know, it's showing where you're a pioneer, where you're taking action, where you're being very yangy. You know, you are emitting your energy, you're thrusting. When it's retrograde, you're inwardly thrusting and inwardly aggressive, and so not only you know, is energy kind of lower than usual, but it's like you're also running the risk of running yourself down, or turning your frustrations and resentments inward. So again, you know, at the start of the season, you know, when at the first part of this forecast, I'm talking with high hopes and talking in terms of how we can restore ourselves and how we can watch our bodies and get into as best shape as possible. I think if you're able to do that, that will stand you in really good stead for this Mars retrograde, because, you know, if you've made your body a place of toxicity from an excess of difficult thoughts to process, a lot of anger and triggering going on, and if you've sort of used food and drugs or alcohol or whatever, if you've been doing things to kind of create the peace in your body, you know, by the time this Mars retrograde comes around, and it doesn't come around that often, it comes around every couple of years, but it lasts for about 8 to 11 weeks. You know, it's you know, 2 to, you know, almost 3 months. You know, this retrograde can take its toll. So, you know, if you can retreat into yourself, if you can do things that are gentle to your body, and also things that help you to express your inner frustrations, your inner hurts, I think getting dialogue is useful. Now, this is where Mercury retrograde could be really useful, because Mercury retrograde, you know, is not that outward talking and communicating and being part of the rat race and being sort of integrated into the sort of marketplace is our world right now. But Mercury is quite internalized then, but things like journaling, resetting, like things like the law of attraction, reading and studying, you know, I think all of that is really, really helpful energy as Mars is retrograde. You know, it's the perfect time to have a whole list of books that you want to read, because you think they're going to stretch you, they're going to enlighten you, they're going to help you build yourself back, your internal mental resources. So, you know, gentle exercise, you know, make sure you've got enough food to keep you going through that time. Don't plan anything that's going to stress you out. Like if you've got some kind of family holiday, and I've just realized looking at that, you know, around the 25th of November, you know, around that last Thursday of November, Thanksgiving, oh my goodness, you know, with Mercury retrograde and Mars slowing down, getting ready to go retrograde, you know, I think anything like that could absolutely send you over the edge if you're particularly stressed by what's going on. So do all you can to pre-prepare for an easy sailing time of this, you know. And like I say, you know, if you have got some really nice, kind, gentle goals for yourself that do get you out and about and using your physical body, but not pushing yourself too much, that would be perfect. And again, if you are able to have dialogues with people, you know, I think the role of coaching is going to get really, really important at this time. And that's another reason why I think it's really important. I'm saying really a lot, why it's so important to build your resources as much as you can at the beginning of this season, because it just sets the season up so that you can realize what you're learning from this. You know, I mean, that's the thing. None of these awkward feelings would be happening if we didn't have something that we were working through in ourselves. It's interesting, you know, like you can be a sibling, you know, you might have an older brother or sister or a younger brother and sister. And when they talk about big things that happened in your childhood, or, you know, if you haven't got siblings, it might be a cousin or something, but, you know, you can talk about past memories, and you know, their version of events could be very, very different to yours. And yet they go through the same thing. Some people are built to take on stress and it just not affect them. You know, are they thicker skinned? That's something that people say, or do they not take it personally? I think things can only really get you if you've got a listening for victimization, or if you've got a listening for trauma, or if you've got a listening for not being good enough, or if you've got a listening for being bullied, or if you've got a listening for whatever. So anywhere where you've got in your mind-body system a listening, like you've got a little hook somewhere in your unconscious mind that is like Velcro, every time something that matches that kind of vibration or that kind of activity, boom, it sticks to you, but it doesn't stick to your sibling that doesn't have that hook. So, you know, this whole season, I think, is about discovering these little hooks, these pernicious little hooks that are just waiting, like these little booby traps in the unconscious mind. And the more you can listen to triggers right now, the more you can start to work them out, so that as things are kind of pushed your way, they don't have to stick to you. They can just go over your head like they might for somebody else. That's why I think some people, you know, they're like Teflon. I don't know if Teflon, is that something in America as well as in England and Europe? Like Teflon, the idea of a non-stick, you know, some people are very non-stick. Stuff doesn't stick to them and they just kind of brush it off, you know. So be your non-stick self, be as non-stick as you can be. The 6th, 7th and 8th are pretty strong times. So we've got the Mars retrograde, like going into action. Venus changes signs. Then she goes into a conjunction with Pluto. The next day, the Sun has an opposition to Jupiter. That's the last of the personal planet oppositions, I think. No, it's not, because then Venus goes into an opposition with Mars. So this is a really, really strong time. I would say that Venus going into Aquarius and then conjuncting Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius, that is a really, really strong aspect. In the first part of the forecast, I was talking about the significance of this place. 0 degrees Aquarius is, I think, a very, very highly critical degree. It's a degree that has a lot to do with the governance of the world. 0 degrees Aquarius was where Saturn and Jupiter connected in their last conjunction, and their conjunctions are associated with world governance and big systems coalescing, and big systems and how they grow and how they influence and impact civilizations. And so Venus in a conjunction to Pluto right on that is pretty significant, especially after a big election, especially while there's lots of people talking about the potential of war, which I don't want to add to by talking about it. But the awareness, you know, and you know, on that subject of, you know, are we talking about things to bring them in? Well, I think when we're talking about them and creating a charge of fear or a charge of excitement, you know, when we're charging things with an emotion deliberately, we are absolutely adding to the collective. But if we can be calm and observe that these things might be happening, but not react to them in such a personalized way, then we're not really adding to the collective, you know. And I don't think your rampaging thoughts will necessarily like sway the whole world, you know, because everyone has their part to play. But I do believe that the more you can be in a place of equilibrium and balance, I think the more that energy of balance and equilibrium can spread to the next person and the next person. If there was a communicable disease to go worldwide right now, I would say the energy of balance and equilibrium would be a pretty good start. And observation, you know, being able to see things. So as we're coming to the end of this particular season, which has pulled us from pillar to post, I just want to go back to that first part, you know, where I'm talking about the hope for the season. And also in fact, I'm going to go back several slides now to the actual moment that the sun went into the sign of Libra on the 22nd of September. Right at the start, you know, earlier in this video, I was talking about the potential of this beautiful grand trine. You know, this is meant to be moving us as a group of people into a new way of being. And, you know, this is transforming how we are expressing ourselves at a really deep level, so that we are taking full personal responsibility for ourselves and finding a new way to manage. I think it's also recognizing that we can get really, really angry about things that there's not much we can do to change them. You know, there is, I think, an energy of allowance and acceptance that is really offered to us in this season ahead. And I think it's going to test us, but I think this is all about learning and really, really, truly about understanding that consciousness is transforming right now, and it's a bit of a bumpy ride, and yet this too will pass. So I don't know exactly where to leave this. Is it warm and fuzzy? Not really. It could be. Is it absolutely doom and gloom and we're not going to move beyond this? I don't think so either. I just think we are in one of these deep transition times whereby there's a whole heap of things going off. There's a whole heap of distractions to keep us out of our body. I think the biggest gift we can give ourselves is that ability to stay in our body and to engineer calm for ourselves just as soon as we can. The sooner you can get into a practice of feeling calm in yourself and centered in yourself, the better off this season will go for you. And I think the better off it will go for the whole collection of us. So I'm going to leave that there. I hope that was helpful to you. You know, obviously I will also be doing my usual updates, which currently I'm doing every week, you know, for all signs of the zodiac. I also do new moon and full moon updates. And if there's anything particularly eye-catching or particularly unusual, then there's usually an extra update there as well. So hopefully, as we go through this, you know, it's hard, isn't it, when you're sort of doing something for the next 3 months? A lot can change. You know, a lot has just changed in the last 3 weeks. You know, stuff changes all the time. So this is just to give you a heads up on what you might want to prepare for, what you might want to be aware of, and how best to manage your energy. So I hope that's helpful. Sending you heaps and heaps of love. Thanks for supporting the show. And yeah, take care and catch you another time real soon. Bye for now.